Back in 1900, which was also an Olympic Games in Paris, there were only two teams. It was Great Britain versus France.
1900, Great Britain and France comprises, I think, most of the world. So I don't think it's just two countries. But yeah.
How about 2036 in Saudi Arabia?
My goodness. Okay.
Gone some way forward.
Take it away.
I would definitely vote to have cricket not at the Olympics.
There's the promo. Yeah.
On ESPNcricinfo Runorder, we are in the company of some regulars in Raunak Kapoor and Dustin Silgardo. We've got Firdose Moonda from South Africa, but we will give first strike to Zenia D'Cunha, who has just pulled off a bit of a marathon, part of ESPN India's coverage of the Olympic Games. So having done all of that, Zenia, here we are. You can thank us for getting you back into the Olympic fold just as you thought you'll get a break. How can cricket, which is a sport which has been so alienated from the Olympics, best make an impact as an Olympic sport?
I think the great thing about cricket joining the Olympic fold from the next edition is that as Indians, we can talk about a few more medals. At least I'm keeping my fingers crossed for more medals because the experiences this time were a lot of slips. So I'm hoping the experience of the cricket teams helps in adding to the medals.
Name the color of the medals also, Zenia.
I will not jinx this 4 years early. I have done that too much in the last 3 weeks. But jokes apart, I think cricket, especially from an Indian context, it's great, right? We can have maybe Rohit Sharma, maybe Smriti Mandhana as Olympians in the near future. And we know how, despite there being World Cup and despite there being so many prestigious cricket events, Olympics is a completely different event. The format, the number of teams, I know will all be decided soon. I know that a lot of other team sports have different templates about how they go about. ICC and IOC needs to find that sweet spot for cricket now.
Yeah,
I mean, Zenia said that Rohit Sharma will be an Olympian. He'll be 42.
He'll come out of retirement.
Not a chance.
Listen, it's Olympics.
He's more likely to be a Rotarian than an Olympian by then.
I was just going for the captains.
Some talk around the fact that there may be 6 teams. I mean, although there's nothing confirmed yet. If that were to be the number, that feels like a number too low. Raunak?
The problem will be, can you create a tournament that isn't really competing with your marquee cricket World Cups? Or are you going to go the hockey way and think it doesn't matter if you have World Cups and World Championships, the Olympics are the Olympics. So I personally like hockey as an example. I think it should be the best players in the world, unlike men's football at the Olympics. Have 12 teams, 2 groups of 6, quarter, semi-final. I think it gives you a wholesome format. It gives you a good number of teams.
When you consider the Olympics, this is cricket's push to become truly global. So if you do really want to attract a global audience, you want it to be as close to the best spectacle as possible.
Sorry, isn't it peak cricket to want it to be global and then say 16?
That is peak cricket. But your point, Yash, actually made me think, and when Raunak was talking as well, that I would like to see a regional qualification system. So very similar to what we have to football. Of course, cricket doesn't have teams in every continent that would maybe be strong enough, but I'd like to see regional qualification where we see maybe 2 teams from Asia. Of course, we know which the teams will be from the Australasian region, a team from Europe, and I must say there's no guarantee that team will be England. We know Scotland and the Netherlands are hot on their heels. Ireland are in there as well. Maybe a team from Africa and then 1 from the Americas region. So that probably makes 6. Like Raunak and yourself, Yash, I think 6 is too few. I wouldn't mind 8.
I just want to point out that it will at least be a marked improvement for cricket from the last time it was at the Olympics, because back in 1900, which was also an Olympic Games in Paris, there were only 2 teams. It was Great Britain versus France. And within that, they played a 2-day game, which was 2 innings and had 12 aside. So it doesn't even qualify as a first-class game. That's how much of a standing.
In 1900, Great Britain and France comprises, I think, most of the world. So I don't think it's just 2 countries. But yeah.
But yes,
there's
I mean,
there's the promo. Yeah.
Yeah, the irony is the only track record of that game, the fact that Great Britain won, is down to the fact that one of the players in that team actually kept a physical scorecard. That's the only record. So things will be better in 2028. Dustin, what's your idea?
No, I would say similar to Raunak, maybe 8 teams instead of 12. But I think you need at least 8, maybe 2 groups of 4. And then you go straight to semi-finals and a final. To be honest, I'm not really that excited about cricket at the Olympics.
My
We've already
God.
got so many other tournaments.
What?
We've got the IPL. We've got so much cricket, man. We don't need any more of it. It is not going to make the sport go global. Okay, China wins. I mean, the other countries win enough medals in other sports. They're not going to
Especially
start taking up cricket
Australia.
to
We
win
don't
one
need
more
them.
wicket. They're not going to take up cricket to win one more medal. It's just not
Don't
going to
you?
happen.
Doesn't your
It's
slight
basically.
challenge with so much cricket come with a lot of fairly meaningless cricket or lack of context cricket?
Yeah.
You need greater scale and stature, and the Olympics gives you that. Wouldn't you welcome something like this because you're so frustrated with so much league cricket, franchise cricket?
So name me 3 players from the Serbia basketball team, Raunak.
The Serbia basketball team does.
So I mean they're constantly in the finals of the Olympics, but nobody cares because when it comes to the Olympics,
knew
people are
this,
focused on
Dustin.
the
You
swimming and every
care.
Yeah,
aspect.
you knew.
I actually can name 3, but the point is that having big team sports at the Olympics don't actually elevate them to the level that you think they do.
The challenge is where does history kind of side with the sport, and what then becomes the premier tournament? And hockey's had the advantage of having its history at the Olympic Games, and a hockey World Cup that came many years later. I think 1970 or 71 was the first men's hockey World Cup, whereas hockey has been already a sport at the Olympic Games and had its history behind it. Similarly, for cricket, you have a World Cup, and in football's case with FIFA also you have the history of the FIFA World Cup. So how does cricket welcome the Olympics at this stage of its life is the question. I still think it should
The
be.
question is, will the ICC be allowed to have its own sponsors for the cricket tournament at the Olympics? The answer is no. And so that is the real question, and which is why the World Cup will always be the premier tournament.
Maybe they'll come. Who comes up with the rules then over there? Can they have their own
You can't have
DRS?
sponsors at the Olympics.
Can the Olympics actually give cricket a better version of how cricket could be run?
Maybe it will actually motivate some of the players and fans who had an overdose, similar to you, Dustin. Maybe the Olympics can be the boost it needs to, start a.
No. I can watch other sports at the Olympics. I'm very happy not to have cricket on during the Olympics.
On that,
Also,
that's
can the BCCI profit from the sales of the Olympics rights?
They'll find a way. So
there'll be 6 teams at the Olympics. India will win a medal, and that's it. Okay. The other tournaments are always going to be the premium tournaments.
Do you think, like football, it would make sense to have age group for the men and more open for the women? In a way, it could promote the women's game, maybe bring some element which would be otherwise missing in a World Cup scenario?
Yeah,
I want to say yes, but I think women's World Cups are starting to really become standalone marquee events of their own. So I'm almost tempted to say, if we're going to do age group, it must be for both. And it can't be under 19, as we mentioned, because we've already got under 19 World Cups. I wouldn't be too unhappy with an under 25. And I'm still keen on the idea of maybe looking at more kind of representation that splits up the cricketing powers. So, I mean, you guys are saying India will win a medal. Of course, we think Australia will win a medal. And we're expecting the same kind of countries to appear. But if cricket wants to grow, and as Raunak says, I think that's an if. It's not a certainty. Then we want to extend continental representation so that we are seeing a story like the US. Because for me, the interesting thing is conditions-wise, we've got LA 28, Brisbane 32 for the Olympics, and from everything we're hearing, Saudi Arabia 36. So we're going to see some really interesting conditions, and how will cricket be played in these venues and in these places. We've got a taste of the US. We know what Australia does. How about 2036 in Saudi Arabia?
My goodness. Okay.
Gone some way forward. Raunak, in favor of the age group?
Football is far too global a sport, so you can have this and still make it. It's still received reasonably well. Cricket is a big sport in very few countries, and the best of cricket going to the Olympics is, I think, a step forward. Even if it's 6 teams or 8 teams or 12 teams, so I'd like to see the best players in the world get there.
Dustin, are you interested in voting?
No. I mean, just have. If you're going to the Olympics, you might as well send the best players.
Thank you to all of you. There's still a lot of time. I mean, 4 years seems a long enough time for cricket to decide what format suits best, considering we at the moment don't even know the venue of the next Women's T20 World Cup, which is a couple of months away. So that's a long time for cricket to plan. Thank you so much, Firdose, Dustin, Raunak, Zenia, for your company. This was ESPN Cricinfo Run Order.